Good day, this is James Spencer. I'm an artist developer and an acting and voiceover and musical theater coach located in Long Beach, California. Today is going to be our second episode in Dialects, and today we're going to focus on Cockney. Now, the Cockney dialect is specifically to the region of East London and tends to be a lower class English. As we learned with the High British accent in the first episode, is while the British is very yawning and very slow and very open this way in the mouth, Cockney is very much this way in the mouth and back in the throat. So again, British is right there, yawning in the front of the mouth. Oh, we've got to learn that the Cockney accent is kind of back here in the throat. Okay, so I'm going to be giving you some specific rules that you can use to help you develop your Cockney accent, which is again an accent that is very useful. Obviously, several traditional plays like Pygmalion would use the Cockney. Charles Dickens. We hear it on current television shows even. I just had a student that's working with me who's doing the musical Matilda, and there's a song in there called all I've learned from telly. Okay, and and there's a Cockney accent there in that musical as well. It's of course Liza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, which is based on Pygmalion and so forth. Okay, so let's get started, and what we're going to do is the best way to learn any dialect is to specifically stop and isolate specific sounds, working on specific words, taking notes, so it's good to have a notebook, practicing those, and then putting them together into sentences. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. So one of the specific features of Cockney accent is the use of what is called the glottal stop. Again, in Cockney in general, it's spoken way back on the throat, way back here. And what they do is let's isolate one sound. So whenever you see a double T in a word, for example, better, letter, butter, those are some examples. What they do is they do the glottal stop. A good way to start learning it is to go, uh-oh, in the back of the throat. Let's try that together. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Okay, now let's take a look at some words. So better becomes better, better, butter, butter, butter. And then letter becomes letter. So here is a sentence I put together. Pass the better butter mate. And that becomes this in Cockney. Pass the better butter mate. Okay, let's try that together. Pass the better butter mate. And did you notice at the end of the sentence too, sometimes consonants are just kind of thrown away. So instead of being like mate with a strong T, in Cockney they tend to just leave them off. Pass the better butter mate. And they barely touch that T. Okay, so that's an example of a glottal stop. Okay, and that's going to be quite normal to see that used quite a bit. So, for example, what, okay, back in the throat. A lot. So, like, here's one. Instead of what, a lot, a bother for my mother, it becomes what a lot of bother for my mother. Okay, we'll be working on some of those other sounds. I know it's a little tricky for like what some people like in America. Most of us have not heard a Cockney accent, so this can be a difficult accent for Americans. Okay, so again to review, the glottal stop talked quite a bit back in the throat. Let's practice those again. Better, butter, letter. Okay, so there's some examples. Let's move on to the next rule for Cockney. Okay, so one of the first rules we need to learn in Cockney is H in the beginning of a word is never pronounced, and the vowel that would be after the H tends to be back in the throat. So, for example, instead of hello, we go hello, 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 governor. Okay, hello, mate. Here's one, since my kids love to do Harry Potter, is instead of Harry, Harry. And we learned that Potter has two T's, so we would do the glottal stop. So Harry Potter, Harry Potter. Okay. Here's another one from that. Is that your R-O, Edwig? Edwig instead of Hedwig. Okay. Here's another one. Instead of haters, gonna hate. Eight is gonna eight. Eight is gonna eight. Okay. So leave off the H's in the beginning of the words. So instead of going to a hotel, you go to hotel. Hotel. Okay? So, like hold your horses, hold your horses. Hold your horses, okay? A little strange, okay? So, but that, and again, you want to try to get it back in the throat. You want to kind of widen your face. There's a tightness in the face when you do Cockney. It's very wide, okay? So good. So what I would do is, let's say you're doing a script that has the Cockney accent. You can go in, and when you see the double T's, remember, cross those out, make it a glottal stop. Cross out all the H's in the fronts of words and practice them. Okay? So let's move on to the next rule. One of the unique features of Cockney is how the sound of TH changes to either an F, a soft D, or in the middle of words, sometimes into a V sound. So it could be a little tricky. So usually the rule is that when you have a TH at the beginning of a word, it becomes an F, kind of wide in the front of the mouth. So the three of us becomes the three of us. The three of us. Okay? I'm going to the theater. Theater becomes theater. Theater. So I'm going to the theater. Going to the theater. Here's another one. My thigh hurts after exercising. So how about my thigh hurts? My thigh. Thigh. Okay? My thigh hurts after exercising. Thought. I just had a thought becomes I just had a thought. Thought. Okay? So what you just want to do is, whenever you see TH in the beginning of the word, it's usually a good idea to just turn it into an F sound. And you also want to kind of go wide face and blow the F. Almost make it like a double F. Theater. They really kind of do that, like really blowing the F. Here's another one. I heard thunder. I heard thunder. Thunder. Really getting that F sound. So you just kind of over accent the F. Now there are occasional times in short one-syllable words where the TH at the beginning of a word becomes a soft D. So instead of saying this, we go this, this. So this math thing becomes this math things. Or thing, okay? So the NTH too, like in math, becomes an F. Math. Math things. This math things. Okay? So there's some examples of the THs. What you want to do is practice and listen because, you know, like I said, the majority of TH in the beginning of the word is an F, so you can kind of go with that, but there are a few slight exceptions, like in the word this and you know, and so forth. Okay? So let's move on to now TH in the middle of words. Okay, so one thing that is a rule in Cockney that actually it comes from the High British is, in true British English, there are two types of TH sounds in English. There is a voiceless TH that's just air, as in thin, thick, think. And those THs turn into an F. Think. Okay, another example is a TH that is in the middle of a word like everything, thing, becomes everything. And the NG at the end becomes a K. Everything, think. Okay, sympathetic, instead of sympathetic. Okay, the TH again, that is a blown air TH, becomes F. Unsympathetic. Okay, so it's sympathetic. Okay, so in Cockney, again, to review, you replace a voiceless TH with F. However, there's also voiced TH. That uses the voice box. These. Or in the middle, a lot of times in the middle of words, you'll have TH, like brother, the, mother, father, weather. And all of those get replaced in Cockney with a B. My brother, my mother, my father. Don't bother my father. Okay? What a lot of bother for mother. What a lot of bother for mother. What a lot of bother for mother. Okay? So what's really, if you're not sure, what you want to do is look at a word that has the TH, ask yourself, is it air? Is it think? And remember, if it's voiceless, you replace it with an F. If it's voice, like these, those, bother, father, those THs become a V. Bava, mother. Okay? And that should solve all your THs. Another rule of Cockney is that when a word ends in ing, like swimming, thinking, we leave off the G and usually it becomes, like, for example, watching becomes watchin', leaving off the G. So, I'm watching telly. I'm watching the television. Okay? Watching, flying, typing. Okay, now, here's one too that uses like the TH becomes an F with the ing, leaving off the G. So thinking, remember we said that TH often becomes an F, it becomes thinkin'. Okay? Here's another thing though. Sometimes an ending G becomes like a K. So anything becomes anything. Anything. Nothing. I know nothing. Nothing. I know something. Something. Okay? So sometimes that G becomes a K. Okay, so usually what you just want to do is listen to the Cockney to know which times. There's no real specific rule on that. I would say the majority of the time just leave off the G. And then if you can remember the three words, anything, nothing, and something becomes anything, nothing, something. And remember those three, then you'll do really good. Okay? Thanks. Since I teach musical theater, I teach all my singers IPA, or International Phonetic Alphabet. And that can be very helpful in learning dialects. Here's one that comes up quite a bit. The I sound in English, okay, which actually in true British is the combination diphthong of ah and I. I. So High English would say, I like Mike, with this kind of drop sound of the ah to I. I like Mike. However, in Cockney, it becomes almost like oi in boy. And that is done with an open, wide mouth, oi. So it becomes like in Cockney, here's one. I quite like Mike's kite. And that becomes, I quite like Mike's kite. Okay. I quite like Mike's kite. Okay. Oi. Kind of wide mouth and oi. Oi. I like Mike. I like Mike. I like Mike's kite. I quite like Mike's kite. Okay. So there you go. So those are kind of some ones that you'll see that you can practice too. Another thing I will be spending more time on, but a lot of times too, what you want to do is in Cockney, just sounds are dropped off. Like, for example, at the end of a word, Sherlock Holmes. Let's do that, for example. So it becomes like almost the CK at the end of Sherlock is not even said. It's kind of like Sherlock, Sherlock Holmes, Sherlock Holmes. And of course, the H we learned is never pronounced, right, in the beginning of the word. So kind of just letting those kind of sounds be in the back of the throat. And what happens is when you speak back in the throat, a lot of the consonants just don't come out. That's why, if we have to do a T, for example, bet, in the front of the mouth. So since they talk in the back of the mouth, then the T doesn't come up when we get the glottal stop, but be'a, because everything's kind of stuck back here on the throat. Okay, so that's a great thing to just kind of practice and add in. Okay, there's a few more sounds we need to go over. So remember, again, I becomes oi, oi. Okay, so you can practice those. Many years ago, I had the pleasure of playing Professor Higgins in the musical My Fair Lady by Lerner and Loewe, which is based on the play Pygmalion by Bernard Shaw. And I think it's the perfect example of showing both High English and Cockney. And one thing I remember that I laughed about because when I first was studying the role of Higgins, and having to do a high, aristocratic British accent, was just the complete difference between that and the Cockney and how it's pretty crazy at times, And one scene is when Henry Higgins is teaching Liza Doolittle how to speak correctly in High English, and the saying is, "How now, brown cow." And in British, it's the diphthong of ah going to ah. How now, brown cow. Very wide mouth. And in Cockney, that sound of ow becomes ah. Ha na brown cow. Okay, which is like, whoa. Okay, that kind of shocked me a little bit when I was first learning that. But that's what they do, and it's very bright, very wide, and back in the throat. Ha na brown cow. Okay, so going out to park the car. I'm going out to park the car. So even park, a little bit more this way. So let me do that again. I'm going out to park the car becomes in Cockney. I'm going out to park the car. Park the car. Okay. So those are fun ones to practice as well. What I really do suggest is do go back and watch My Fair Lady or, watch the play Pygmalion. It's a perfect example of working with both the differences between High British and the Cockney accent. Okay, a subtle difference between Cockney and American or higher English is that the schwa, a schwa is usually what we call an unaccented sound at the end of a word, like for example ending in er. So like in England, in High English they would say better, weather, October, November. However, what happens is in Cockney, that is in the back of the throat, and it's more pronounced. So, for example, doctor, 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 stronger, faster. I'm a Londoner, Londoner, Okay, so it's kind of like you want to just pronounce, whenever you have that ER in the end of the word, make it a strong in the back of the throat. Okay, Londoner, Londoner, harder, harder, doctor, father, teacher. Okay, and that will help you also get the slight differences, again, that will make you sound more Cockney. Okay. In Cockney accent, words that end in a double L, pill, thrill, ill, windowsill, what they do is it becomes sort of like a W, but it's sort of a puckered W. So ill becomes ew, ew, thrill, windowsill. I got ill from the pill, pill, but not ill from the pill. So you got to really watch those. They're a little bit tricky. Okay, let's try those again. Ew instead of ill. Thrill, thrill instead of thrill. Pill instead of pill. Okay? Excellent. So watch for those two in words. So every time you see a double L, you want to change it. Also, words that end in a L to begin with, like names, like Phil, my friend Phil. We would kind of go, my friend Phil, Phil. Okay? A pail of water becomes like, okay, pail, pail, pail of water. Pass me a pail of water. Okay? So you can practice those. So remember, ending L's with the wheel instead of wheel of my car. With the wheel of my car. Wheel of my car. Okay? Those are a little bit tricky. Okay? So they'll take a little practice. Remember again, one thing that might help for my students that are out in areas like Boston, the Boston accent actually comes from Cockney settlers, okay? So if you notice in Boston, they might say, instead of I'm going out to park the car, I'm going out to park the car. That's also very Cockney, okay? Park the car, okay? It's great. Okay, instead of saying my, like we would say my throat hurts, for example, they in Cockney say me. So for example, here's where we're using three of the rules. Instead of my, me. Instead of throat, throat. Make the TH because remember soft TH or voiceless TH becomes an F. So we have so far me throat. And then remember, words that start with H, you don't say. So me float it. Me float it. Okay, here's another one. I'm going to the theater with my brother. So let's take that down now. I'm going, remember we leave off the G of going, to the, now with the theater, we're going to go the theater. I'm going to the theater. Now with becomes with the TH, because remember, again, voiceless TH with becomes an F. I'm going to the theater with, now instead of my brother, me brother. Because remember, the voice TH becomes a V. I'm going to the theater with me brother. There you go. Okay? So practice those. So remember, every time you see my, change it into me. Okay, so this is where it gets really fun with Cockney. There are literally hundreds of phrases and colloquialisms in Cockney. Now, you're not going to be able to learn them all, but there's a few that if you start adding into your dialect work, you will see will help you to sound more Cockney. So one thing is, let's take wife. So, like we would say, I'm going out with my wife. They, remember, would turn my into me and wife into Mrs. Go out with me, Mrs. Going out. So let me do it slow. Going out with me, Mrs. Going out with me, Mrs. Okay. Another one, in addition to that, is if someone's attractive, we might go, oh, she's pretty, she's attractive. They say fit. Oh, your missus is fit. Okay, fit. Or sometimes it's so fast that it almost comes off as fifth because they talk so fast. Okay, here's something to remember before we move on too, is the higher the aristocrat, the slower the dialect. So if you notice in High English, if I'm the king or queen, we talk very yawning and very slow. But if you're super poor Cockney, you talk super fast. And so things really run together. Here's another word that's used a lot, is we say, oh, she's ugly. They would say minga, minga. Oh, she's a minga, minga. She's ugly. Okay, so that's another one you can use. That's kind of fun. Oh, minga. She's a minga. Okay. Another one is we say, oh, do you have any money? They use two words instead. One is dosh, D-O-S-H, or dough. Sorry, mate, I ain't got no dosh by the theater. I have no money to go to the theater, okay? I ain't got no dough. I ain't got no dough. Okay? Also, I want you to notice, instead of the contraction, they use ain't. Instead of like, I'm unable, I ain't. I ain't going. I ain't going. I ain't been there. Okay? Some things like that. Okay, here's some other ones. Pregnant. So we would say, oh, Hannah is pregnant. They use the phrase up the duff. Up the duff. So, here's one. Did you hear, Henry? Hannah is up the duff. Okay, now let me do it in Cockney. Did you hear, Henry? So notice all those H's I leave off with a guttural stop. Did you hear, Henry? Anna is up the duff. Did you hear, Henry? Anna's up the duff. Okay, here's another one. Instead of isn't it, we just say in it sometimes. I'm going in it. Okay, here's another one. You know what I mean gets run together. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Okay, just kind of run it really fast, barely touch the consonants. In general, the Cockney accent is super lazy on the consonants. So if you're talking super fast, like, I saw that movie. Do you know what I mean? I saw that movie. You know what I mean? Just kind of throw it away super fast. Okay, and that will also help you get the dialect. Okay, so now for a little fun quiz, kind of combining everything we've been studying in this video on Cockney, did you have a chance to copy down the last script that said math and arithmetic, that whole thing? Okay, so copy that down, and then I want you to look at it and go through the script and mark it up with all the rules we talked about. Now, I'm going to say it. Here's the answer. Math and arithmetic, Henry? Can't be bothered, mate. Ask me brother Harry while me mother makes me a cuppa. Okay, so let me go over a few slang that you might have saw. They go, what is cuppa? So in that slang in England and in Cockney for a cup of tea. And of course, a lot of people prefer in England tea over coffee. Okay, and most people too, at around 4 o'clock, they take a break and they have a cup of tea. So maybe, and so again, let's review the rules. So instead of math, remember that we have math. We have a soft, voiceless TH, so that's going to become an F, moth. And really blowing that F, moth. Then we have arithmetic. And again, that's a soft TH, so it becomes arithmetic. So far we have moth and arithmetic. Now we know we leave off the H in the beginning of words. So instead of Henry, Henry, Henry. Moth and arithmetic, Henry. Okay, now the next sentence, can't be bothered, mate, becomes, remember the TH in bother is a voice TH, bothered. So it becomes a V, can't be bothered. And we make the really strong. Can't be bothered, mate. Math and arithmetic, Henry. Can't be bothered, mate. Ask me brother Harry. Okay, now what we do, remember they don't say my brother, they say me. Ask me brother Harry. Okay? While me mother, instead of mother, makes me a cuppa. Okay, so let me read it one last time. Math and arithmetic, Henry. Can't be bothered, mate. Ask me brother Harry, while me mother makes me a cuppa. Okay? Okay, so this is the answer to question 2, which is kind of tricky. So let me go super slow on this, and then I'll do it. Okay, here we go. Thank Phil for a bit of butter, but me feel well. Me tummy hurts. Okay, so let's break that up. So thanks, again, thanks, more F. Thanks, Phil. And on Phil, we have the L, so it becomes like a W. Phil. Thanked Phil for the, so instead of the, kind of like a D, for the better butter. Those are those glottal stops, okay? So, thank Phil for a better butter, but me feel well. Now notice again, feel ill. We have the L, so feel ill. But me feel well. Okay? Me tummy hurts. So we leave off the H instead of, and notice again, instead of saying my tummy hurts, me tummy hurts. Me tummy hurts. And instead of I feel ill, but me feel well. They use me instead of I sometimes as well. Okay, hope you did good. Let's try some other ones. Okay, so for the last quiz example, I actually took a line from the musical Matilda where the character in this is actually going to kind of speak and sing this in a Cockney accent. So it is on a rhythm almost like a rap, so I'm going to do it and then we'll isolate and answer it, okay? So here is the answer to 3. Somewhere on a show I heard, a picture tells 1,000 words. So Telly, if you bothered to take a look, is the equivalent of like lots of books. Okay, so that was sort of in the rhythm of the song that starts that song. And so, of course, we want to leave off the H in heard. Somewhere on a show I heard. And on I, remember, make it a little bit more O in it. Oi, somewhere on a show I heard, a picture tells 1,000 instead of 1,000 words. So Telly, if you bothered, make sure the TH becomes a V, bothered, to take a look. It's the equivalent of like, instead of like, loik. Lots of books, okay? So there you go. So I hope this was fun. I think you got a good start on Cockney. It's super fun language to play with, and there's so much more to Cockney that would take, hundreds of more videos to do. For example, in the Victorian era, they would often rhyme words to mean something else. So like, for example, they would mean the Queen and they would say baked beans because it rhymes. They go, oh, I just love the baked beans. And they meant I love the Queen. Okay, very bizarre. Some very strange things. And they would, so you can look those kind of videos up on YouTube, which is kind of fun to play with, especially if you are doing a Victorian drama or a period piece that you have to learn where they might use some of those really bizarre colloquialisms, like the rhyming things, like again, baked beans for the Queen or so forth. There's hundreds of them, and it'll take too long to go over them. But I think you got all the basics you need to kind of get the Cockney going. Okay, thanks for joining me. Again, I'm James Spencer. I am an acting and voiceover coach and musical theater coach located in Long Beach, California. I do teach students from all over the U.S., and you can connect with me if you want more information on that or information on artist development, where I help actors and singers kind of build their portfolios for the business and connect with agents and learn the business end. Then you can get connected to me through my website as well. Okay, thank you so much for your time, and I'll look forward to doing some more videos. So keep looking back. I'm going to be adding probably a dialect a week. Okay, thank you so much.